Hey everyone, I'm Brent and I live in Central Arkansas. I got another garden update for you, an overall update actually. And today's topics are, I'm going to give an update on the Parthenocarpic tomatoes at the Lazy Garden, along with the squash. Almost every squash that you see in this video is a breeding work of my own. The next thing we'll talk about is replacement planting. Replacement planting is, it's really similar to consecutive planting in a way, except I call it replacement planting is because I'm taking whatever I was growing before and I replace it with new stuff. Now, as a breeder, I pull stuff prematurely and I base it on the time of the year it is, because I can get in more generations of breeding work and still be able to eat the vegetables and whatnot. If I were a traditional gardener, what I would do is just grow it until it gets exhausted with some consecutive planting plans. So I may have one bed that has a certain, a yellow squash in it, and then I may start another bed a little bit before those first ones get exhausted, so that I'll continue to have squash. But because I'm a breeder, I don't do things that way. I go by the time of the year, and so each year I can get 2 outside generations in most vegetables, and then I also grow in the winter grow room. I call it the grow room in there during the winter. So I get at least 3 seasons, sometimes 4 every year. So we're going to talk about the replacement planting, where I'd planted. I got some transplants that I put in. I'll show you those. And then last week I severely pruned the peppers. I'll give you a follow-up of what they look like now. It's only been a week. We'll talk about that. And then the very last topic in today's video, which makes the video really long, which is why I put it last, is my complete fertilizer regimen, how I fertilize both these raised beds and the Lazy Garden. Just so you know, I've got, and I think I talked about this, I've got 16 raised beds that are 2 foot by 8 foot, and then I have a Lazy Garden over there, which is also going to be in this video, that has 160 containers in it. So when I fertilize a lot, and so everything is kept healthy by the regimen that I'm going to show you. And so if you're not interested in learning how I do something, or watching to see how I do something, then you might want to skip that part after, when we get to that point in the video. But that's why I put it at the end, so that the majority of viewing can be towards the beginning, because I'm sure not everybody wants to do things like I do things. And so those are the 4 topics. Update on the Parthenocarpic tomatoes and the breeding of the squash, the replacement planting and the raised beds, follow on to the pruned peppers, and then how I fertilize things everywhere on the property actually, and including, we'll get into that another time, small fruits and stuff like that. And so if you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, that'd be fantastic. Comment, I like talking to you, I'll talk to you all day long. And then share the video, get it around so it's growing. I don't know why, but it just seems like lately my channel is not growing like it used to. I don't know if it's just because YouTube is saturated. I don't know if it's my politics. I don't know what it is. But I'm just not growing. So if you would do that, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe and like and all that great stuff. And we'll get on to seeing what's happening here in the rest of the video. Thank you. We'll see you in the next one. Got a cloudy day out today, and I thought I would take you out and show you my Lazy Garden. Mostly what I have growing out here are squash, melons, and tomatoes, and it's all my breeding work. So let me turn the camera around and I'll show you what it looks like today. My lazy garden is broken up into 4 rows, and each row has 4 cattle panel trellises on it. So there's 10 containers on each cattle panel, so each row has 40. So 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and the 4th row has 4 as well. So I've got 160 containers out here all together, and it's fed with drip irrigation, and of course there's shade cloth. It's all containers are sitting on fabric, and that's why I call it the lazy garden, because it's essentially nearly weed free. Anyway, so here's the right on this row primarily is winter squash, and this is a honey gold butternut that I'm working on. I've got the F1 I'm revalidating, and this right here is the F2. I'm not sure if I'm going to carry it to keep it as a hybrid or carry it to open pollinated. So that's what's going on with amber gold. This is a kabocha. I'm just regrowing some kabachas in the extra pots I had here, just so I can have some winter storage squash. A couple of okra, so I can continue to get okra, but as you can see, I have not been collecting it. Over here is a new hybrid. It's called Amber Fire, and Amber Fire is a cross of Greek Sweet Red and another squash I'll probably talk about later on, but this is the first generation of that, and I'm really curious to see what that's going to do. And this last panel down here is Cantaloupe Cream, and I've started some new starts. 2 of the pots didn't or have failed, so I'm going to replant those with some squash. But I've got 1 plant left over from the last seed. What I'm saying is with this is that selection I collect seed from various cantaloupes of the best ones, and then I grow it, and if it doesn't grow out to be good, I replant seed. So this is one of the previous cantaloupes, and it's looking good, but because it's not finished, there's going to be variation. These down here that are smaller are another melon that I saved seed from, and they're starting to grow. So I should be able to, with the time left in the season, I should be able to collect seed, hopefully from another melon. This one's looking promising so far. The second row here is Brandy Bear, and Brandy Bear is a Parthenocarpic tomato, and it's setting fruit in the high heat on almost all the plants. Now, Brandy Bear, I had to go back a generation, maybe it was 2 generations, 2021 or 2022, because I wasn't satisfied with the last grow. But anyway, it's the same line, but just a couple generations back that I'm regrowing. And so the Parthenocarpic strength varies a little bit until it gets to the open pollinated stage, and then it becomes consistent. And so there's a little bit of variation on the amount of Parthenocarpic here, but all the tomatoes are Parthenocarpic. And what that means is they don't need to be pollinated to continue to grow, and they grow in extremely high heat or even cold weather. As long as the plant's alive, it should produce fruit for you. Here's a nice little plant there. And this is an unusual one right here, which is kind of odd. It's behaving differently. It's growing taller instead of compact like you see down here. But the status of the Parthenocarpic tomatoes is very, very important to me. But right now, I have been working with Veronomics. It's a gene lab, identifying gene genomic lab. Anyway, I'm working with them, I partner with them actually, and we're trying to isolate the specific spot on the genome of the tomato. There's millions, evidently, there's millions of genes on the tomato, and finding it has not been easy. So we've been working on that for the last couple years. Hopefully we'll get it done before too much longer. And then after that, after we identify it, we can open it up to licensing from ag, you know, all the people who make all those, every bit of the tomatoes almost, except for some heirloom tomatoes maybe. They make all the tomatoes in the world, like Syngenta and what are some of the others, you know, like you got your Haussenator and you got your red snappers and you got your big beef and all those people that create all those tomatoes that most people use, especially the hybrids. Hopefully we can get to the point where we can start licensing to them, and then once that happens, the Parthenocarpi should explode and be available to people. I get that question quite a bit. When are you going to sell the seeds? When are you going to do this or do that? Well, the problem with it is that if I give away the seed without protecting it, what that means is that I've lost control of it, and then anybody can rush to patent it at that point, and then they can take security of it. They can prevent it from getting out or whatever they want to do. Anyway, that's Brandy Bear. A little bit more explanation. I try to explain Parthenocarpi as much as I can without getting too much into the weeds, because, you know, people don't really give a darn about Parthenocarpi because they don't really understand what it can mean. It's basically an all-around improvement on tomatoes in every way. But anyway, this is Rose Cherry Bear, and it's a little tomato. This is the 3rd generation, so it's about 75% complete. So I'm growing it. I think I said it's Parthenocarpic, didn't I? Anyway, it's also Parthenocarpic, and I'm growing it to get the next generation. So I'll evaluate the 3rd generation here for taste, productivity, and all that kind of stuff. But it's the last generation, the one I got the seeds from for these, was a really, really tasty tomato. And I got one of the parents was that I crossed to my Parthenocarpic line that I call Brent. One of the parents, the other parent, is a German breeding, and that one was highly disease resistant. So these things have been, the plant structure is really amazing, and so that line was a good cross because it tastes really, really good. These 2 rows here, the few planters, I populated with a squash breeding of mine called Feroce Delicate. And what I'm trying to do is get a type of delicata that's unique and hopefully sweeter and in a really compact bush format. So that's what I'm trying to do. So this is the next generation of that. And because of the Parthenocarpic tomatoes, I ran out of the availability, so I just filled them with that generation. On this particular row right here, this particular spot right here, from here to here, is a cherry tomato I'm working on. It's not looking that great right now, but we'll see how it goes. And then here is my first line of tomatoes I call Succeed, and it's been a really long time since I've grown it, so I want to grow it and save the seed. But Succeed is not a Parthenocarpic variety, but it's a really dark, beautiful tomato. Very, very tasty, and so that's why I'm growing that one. This 3rd row from here down, which is 2 panels and a couple more plants, so it's 22 plants, is a cultivar. It's a new cultivar I'm calling Thunder Bear, and it's from a crossing with a highly disease resistant parent with Brandy Bear, the one I talked about over here. And what I'm hoping to do is improve the wonderful taste, inject the wonderful taste of Brandy Bear into a disease-resistant variety. It's got a different shape, a different growth pattern, and all that. But I can already see a lot of the compactness of Brandy Bears filling the genetic majority in Thunder Bear for this generation, which is 2nd generation. So I've already seen some Parthenocarpic examples, which I think are Parthenocarpic. Let me tell you when I put a tag on it like this, that means look out for it. And I've got a couple tags here. Look out because it's potentially Parthenocarpic. So there's the fruit of that one. It's setting on all of them. And so that's one to watch for. But I really won't know for dead sure until I cut the fruit open. Going back just quickly here, I've got a container or two from here and there where one of these tomatoes died, didn't make it. So I just fill it with various things, like this one's cantaloupe cream. This last row here from the 4 is the 4th row, obviously. And this is a determinate paste tomato that I'm breeding to make Parthenocarpic. And hopefully, if you didn't know, the majority of the tomatoes worldwide are by far paste tomatoes because of products that you make with tomato, canned tomatoes and stuff like that. It is so much more than homegrown tomatoes or slicing tomatoes or stuff you find in the grocery store. So paste tomato is a beneficial thing to make Parthenocarpic because that Parthenocarpic will increase where you can grow the paste tomatoes. So because Parthenocarpic grows in really hot temperatures and they'll stay on the vine and continue to produce even in colder weather, the Parthenocarpic injected into a paste would be something quite a significant improvement. But I'm not super impressed with the structure of the plant. They seem to be kind of wimpy, and one of the lines I used was a strain called San Marzano Redorta. It's a San Marzano type, a few generations back, and I crossed that with a disease resistant paste, and so it's not looking that great, and I don't understand why, because both parents look pretty good. But anyway, I'll continue to develop that, and I've got a couple. I'll take you down here real quick just to kind of show you what they're taking after. I'm a little surprised, if I'm honest, because a lot of them are taken after the San Marzano parent. See here, see how long and thin it is with the point? That's the San Marzano gene, and this particular one I'm pretty sure is Parthenocarpic, but look at the foliage, it's very wimpy. But anyway, I'm going to end up doing something else probably, but I have to evaluate it to the completion. So I'll continue to grow all of these, and we'll see if they don't improve or something stand out eventually. Right now, not very impressed. On this last bit of row here in the 4th back are the melons, and last update I showed them, I got 2 melons that were good size icebox melons, and they both had small seed. One had a dark seed, one had a light seed, and so I planted every other container with the light, dark, light, dark, light, dark all the way down. And what I'm attempting to do is get the smallest seed possible with the biggest icebox melon size, something around the 10-pound range. And it's eluding me, but I'm not giving up on it. You never know what you're going to get. So this is the next breeding. The last one was a failure that I did earlier in the spring, and so I had crossed a very small seeded small melon with a bigger one, and it produced almost all very small melons except for one, and that was the light seeded melon that I crossed here. So it has the genetics of the really small seeds. So I'm hoping one will produce out of these, and I'm hoping there's enough time in the season. So I'm starting to get flowers on some of the cantaloupe cream, so I'm hoping the flowers on these will start going as well. I've got about a month and a half or so, and if the weather continues to be warm, maybe even longer, to grow it out, so we'll see. I wanted to finish off this part of the video by saying that fruit shape, plant structure, plant health, and disease resistance I am now focusing on, and I mentioned that in an earlier video. But what I had done before this focus was just try to generate as many Parthenocarpic lines as I could. And so I've got somewhere between 15 and 20 different lines going. So I know the Parthenocarpia is there for easily, but the plant structure is just was absolutely nonsense. And so I've refocused, and I'm getting really good, it appears to me that I'm getting really good results from it, so that's great. The disease resistance right now, being the beginning of September, it's still quite hot. The plants are flourishing on these 2 rows, not so much the paste as I just talked about, but they're all flourishing, they're all doing great, and I'm getting a lot of tomatoes set, something that normally wouldn't happen. If I come down here and show you here my succeed, where do they start? Right here. These are succeed, and I don't have any fruit set on it, or very little. It looks like one might be here. No, if you look inside the flowers here, they're not setting fruit because it's too hot. It's just too hot to set fruit, and that's the problem with non-Parthenocarpic plants. All plants that are non-Parthenocarpic, because the problem with tomato fruit set and production is always key to the pollen's viability, and anything will kill pollen because of where these plants, tomatoes, come from. They're used to and bred over millennia to grow from a certain type of environment, and so we modernized them and took them all over the world, and they're still limited to pollen viability. Now they do have heat set varieties that do okay. They improve maybe a little bit in certain areas, but they are still tied to pollen viability. So you're never going to have a good tomato that'll produce in high heat until Parthenocarpia is incorporated into them, because they don't need to be pollinated. So I just want to bring that up. I talked about Parthenocarpia, like I said, till I'm blue in the face, and hopefully someday it'll catch on. People will start to realize what it means and what it can mean for everybody. I'm doing some replacement planting in the raised garden beds, and because I've exhausted the fruits I wanted to get off of various squash vines and melons and cucumbers and stuff like that, these are the replacement. I would say it's a little past mid-season, but hopefully we can get some production and at least a glance at some of the stuff. I'll talk about it briefly, but this is my wicking method that I've talked about many times. You can see the wick there, and the wick continues all along. You see it there, and what it does is it draws it from the wick here down the bottom, pulls it up, and then wicks through the bottom of each little container here, and perfectly keeps perfect moisture in there for perfect germination. And so, and perfect germination environment. Okay, so it doesn't matter if one uses more than the other or not. The way wicking works, it'll find the driest area and keep it the same. And if it's too wet, it'll pull the moisture out. So it's a really good method. I've got 32 here. This is my watermelon, and I've got some growing out in the lazy garden, but I want to grow them over here too, because I'm not sure why I'm getting the small melons out the lazy garden over there. So I'm going to grow a number of them over here on a trellis and see how they do over here. That may be an environmental issue. So I've got honey gold. I've probably released the video on honey gold. Maybe I haven't. Wonderful squash. That's a good video, I think. I'm really pleased with how that video turned out. This is Emerald Sweet, my next generation cucumber. I'm pretty sure I've done a video on this one. And this one's Ozark Winter, which is a winter squash / winter pumpkin, whatever you want to call it, for eating.
Not, it can be used for pie making, but it's also for eating. It's really a good squash. So I'm going to grow those out and let you look at those and see what they do. So here the starts are going out planted today for the most part. We've got more Ozark Winter, which is an F1 hybrid. I've got Honey Gold F1, which is a second cross for the F1 to validate the first cross. So if it ends up being the same, looking the same and all that, then I know that I've got a good F1 hybrid there. In between is some Emerald Sweet Cucumbers for second flush grow. And over here I've got more watermelons in my search to get a small seeded larger icebox watermelon. So these are all going out today in various places. I'll show you those. In this bed here I've got 2 Madison's Cross. I love this squash, it's so excellent. I say that every time, don't I? If you're following me, I do. But I've also got some Ozark Winter here. And this kind of follows a pattern I did. I would plant a bush type up front and then a vining type that'll go back behind on the trellis. And so the Ozark Winter will do great. I've got 5 of these. And what I'll do is I'll put one on the end, one in the middle, and one in between. And planting them is ultra simple. I've done this many times before. I just put a little divot with my gloved hand, pull it out, roots. This is a pretty big transplant, and you can see here that the roots are not root bound. So I'm a huge advocate of not potting up. It's such a waste of time in my opinion, and so I don't do it anymore. So I can plant anything without having to pot it up. Now I'm going to do these. See how quick that was? I'm going to do that with these. I'll do 3 for you, and then I'm going to do the other 2 off camera, and then I'll water it in. It's just that super simple. And this is Ozark Winter. It's a hybrid of mine between sweet meat and a kabocha. So this is the smallest one. They don't always come up at the same time, do they? So, but this one's, I can plant this one up, it'll be fine. All right, that's it. I'll do the other 2 and we'll water these suckers in. These 5 plants right here are going to be the same thing. I'm going to plant behind the Madison's Cross here to grow up the trellis, and this is a validation grow. I created a hybrid called Honey Gold, and I have to validate it by making another cross to see if it's consistent. Make sure there were nothing unique in it. So I'm going to plant these right back there, and I'll do it the same exact way I just showed you. About a week ago, I severely pruned peppers, and you can see that bed there. I'm going to take you closer in just a minute. That one over there has peppers that I pruned, and over here those other 2 beds have peppers I pruned in them too. But I want to give you just an update real quick. So in 1 week we have some decent growth coming back here, and it won't take long because they are already established. They have a nice good root system here. So Terzetta bellows, these 4, and Calibre, aka California Brian, is there. Sweet peppers, all of them have bounced back, and this bed is good to go. It won't be long, I'll be getting some nice peppers. Starting in this other bed, these 2 beds are the last of the peppers I pruned back, but starting in this first bed here, that's that really hot pepper. I would say it's a super hot. It just was so painful to eat a teeny little piece. I mean, like 2 chews. I didn't even get to swallow or anything. It's so hot. If anybody wants to try, if anybody wants any of these seeds, I'll send anybody the seeds that wants them, provided they do a video on it showing them eating it. and when they grow it out. So that's the intent. I just wanted to see how hot that sucker is. And I have some seed. I'll probably end up giving some more seed away too. This pepper here is California Brian Calibre. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get used to saying Calibre. California Brian seems cooler, kinda. But anyway, this is another one of those. I removed the lipstick here. I removed the lipstick here because I already have enough of those. This is an Italian sweet. It wasn't cut back this time. It was cut back before. It's doing really well. Got lots of production on that. Let's see here. None are turning. And so these are really large peppers, like a bell pepper on steroids. The taste is so much better. Anyway, this is the one, the same plant that I cut back. This one's a little better plant. So I'm thinking these were not stable. Stable enough to be similar. But it's growing back really nice. Got a lot of flush of growth on that. Pretty much the same with these two. Even have some flowers on that. So pruning back the peppers to stimulate some good, healthy, nice green growth, and hopefully some good production until the frost. Seems to be 100% success. But as the updates come, I'll bring you back and show it to you. I'll do a quick walkthrough of the whole raised bed gardens. Got 16 raised beds here, 14 on this side and 2 on the other side over there. I hardly ever talk about because they have herbs growing in it, but I did just plant some replacement planting, some cantaloupe creams and watermelons. But anyway, so this bed here has got one feroche that sort of was appealing to me. It's growing vertically right now, and we'll see how that works out. That one's going to be planted before too much longer. Actually, both of these, all of these beds where there's nothing growing, there will be some new stuff growing here. Got a couple zucchinis, actually 3. I cut out 1 or 2 to space it a little further. Just got so tired of eating all that zucchini. It was way too much. So I have 3 plants in here now, and I'm growing them vertical, and hope we'll keep pressing these 3 plants until they quit producing. And we use it. I use it. I love zucchini bread. After that, I'm not a huge fan of zucchini. I prefer yellow squash, and specifically Madison's Cross is just incredibly hard to beat. And I'll skip those in just a second because I'm going to talk about them now. That's Madison's Cross. I got 2 full beds of them, and they're looking very nice now that I got the shade cloth up. I thought I was going to lose them until I put the shade cloth up. The eggplants again, I've got 4 Royal Purples and 1 Louisiana Green Oval. You can tell the difference between the 2 by the leaf. This is Louisiana Green Oval. That's a wonderful tasting eggplant in its own right. Royal Purple is better, definitely better. It's got camo as one of the parents. Listata de Gandea is the other parent. But anyway, I've made selections, and it is, if it's not open pollinated, it's like 1 generation away from being open pollinated. Fantastic eggplant. I got one here that I cut them all back. I think I said that. And I've got some little bit of growth here, but that one seems to be struggling a little bit. Of course, I only cut it 2 days ago. So this one, I left, the way I cut it back was I left a bunch of growing tips. Because even though we don't eat eggplant as much anymore, I do want to continue to eat some once in a while. So this plant here I left growing a lot, and in this, I talked about this the last time I think, in here is a developing eggplant. And when I talked about this a week ago, I said that they're white until the sun hits them, and then they get this nice dark color. Well, I've got this one covered, and I'll do a reveal on it hopefully in the next update or 2 and just show you what it's looking like, but hopefully it'll be completely white because all the sun's blocked. I already talked about Madison's Cross there, nothing growing in there. I already talked about the peppers over there cut back. These are 2 Madison's Cross. This is a really good example of what a Madison's Cross looks like, and it'll be harvested in 2 or 3 days. A really good thing about Mason's Cross, after the fantastic taste, best squash I've ever eaten, the really good thing about it is that it can get quite large and the seeds stay small in it. It's such an issue, they stay so small, it's such an issue to collect the seed actually on it because it takes so long to mature the seed. Anyway, I've talked about or showed, if I haven't said it yet, it's going to be in the video, about the replacement planting here and over here as well. So that's pretty much covered. I'll talk about the asparagus. I cinched those up in next week's video. Another Mason's Cross, and these will be replanted. Besides that, the blackberries, that'll be next week as well. I'm going to talk about the small fruits, blackberries, blueberries, and whatnot. And so that'll wrap up pretty much what's going on in the raised bed garden. Everything is growing fantastic, by the way.
I've been asked a couple times to explain how I fertilize and water my garden, and if you've been watching for a while, you know that they're both on drip irrigation. And so I feed the fertilizer to both gardens at separate times on the same day, 3 times a week. And what I use is master blend mixed to directions, and then I double it. So it's double the amount of powder of the 3 requirements for master blend, which is the master blend itself, calcium nitrate, and Epsom salt, also known as magnesium sulfate. So that's the common master blend formula. I double strength mix it, if that wasn't clear. So I mix it per directions, and then I double the amount. So this is my primary storage of fertilizer. It's 2 55-gallon tanks. The tanks are equalized using a siphon. So if you put if you fill one container of this completely full, and then you create a siphon where it siphons down in the other one, what happens is if you continue to fill this one, it will siphon over into the other one until they're both equal. And then if you add more to it, it'll add more to the other one automatically. You don't have to worry about it at all. So this is why this is sitting here. It's just a hose that's run to the bottom of that 55-gallon tank and to the bottom of this 55-gallon tank. So about quarterly, which is now maybe less often, I take these containers out completely and I wash them up. And that's why I'm doing this video, because I've had questions about it and I've been meaning to do a video on it. Yeah, this gives me an opportunity to talk about my fertilization regimen. And also, if I want to, I can use it with just regular water and just water both gardens that way too. So we'll talk about the components. You know, there's 55 gallons here, each one. They're filled to about 50 gallons, so both barrels are about 100 gallons. I'm having a problem spitting that out. In the tank that actually does the feeding, it sends the contents, the nutrient, the master blend to the containers, to the gardens, both the raised bed garden and the lazy garden, is a Eco Plus, I think it's 1100, and it's fitted with PVC that comes out of the top of this particular barrel. I'll bring you in closer in a minute, but I'm just explaining it now. But it's connected by PVC to a Y, and this Y allows me to set the strength that goes out to the 2 gardens, because when I open it, this Y is internal to this bucket. What it'll do is it'll spew extra back into the container, and the primary hose that goes out to the gardens will be less, depending on the other Y, how much I open or close it. So I know that may be confusing, but anyway, it's got a garden hose Y attached to it, and I have one that runs out to a it's a double Y. Well, it'd be best if I just showed it to you. So anyway, this sits down in here like this, and I route it to where it comes up. There's a hose in the top here. I'll bring you in and show you that too. And it's got a check valve on it right here, and that'll become more clear. So that's enough for that right now. It runs off, its pump is 1100, I believe what it's called. It's in my Amazon store if you want to take a look at it. Anyway, I think they're running about 70 bucks right now. I think I got it for about 35 or 40 way back. So it's been running consistently without fail for, I don't know, 8 or 10 years now. It's been a really good pump, but it's got a regular 110 plug on it, and it draws 92 watts when it's running. So less than a 100-watt light bulb. And my two gardens are on 10-minute intervals, 10 minutes to the lazy garden, and then I'll switch to the raised bed garden. I run it for 10 minutes. And that sucks out 25 to 30% of the 100-gallon total, because I've got 160 containers out there. 160, that's a lot. And then over here in the raised bed garden, I've got drip irrigation on 16 beds. So that's how much I feed. It's quite a bit of feed. And so that's why I have these two containers for 100. The one thing I didn't show here, it's not attached yet, is a little bag of rocks. I'll bring you in close here. Tap the back of the camera so I can see what you see. It's just, this is poly mesh that's got some pebbles in it, and I'd used them for other things before, but all I use this for is a weight on the end of the hose. I fix it to this hose that goes between both, and all that does is it keeps it on the bottom. So I'll put a couple zip ties on the very end of the hose, and that just weights it down to the very bottom down there. What I did here is the 55-gallon barrel. I cut out with a jigsaw a top here, and this is nylon parachute cord here. I used to use zip ties like this one, but they break after a while, so this nylon cord is very, very handy. Down here is a cut section of 3/4 inch PVC, and I used one of these zip ties and doubled it through. And what that does is it creates a stop. It prevents this lid from going inside. So it's very robust, and it can handle years of abuse. And so there's probably better ways to create a top. It's just something I did a long time ago. So the barrel now is clean on the inside. It just looks like a standard barrel. And it's ready to be moved back into the shed and placed on its platform and be filled. This is the operational bucket. This is where I do things. I check things and make sure it's all okay, and I check the fluid levels and all that kind of stuff. This particular drum is the extra, if you will. The siphon hose goes into here. It rests on the bottom with the same configuration here, and all it does is it just holds nutrient. Does nothing else, serves no other purpose. So I've rinsed it out. Looks like so. There's not a lot to it. I don't even have to scrub it with any dish detergent or anything. I just rinse it out, and that's all it needs. These are the two little platforms that the 55-gallon barrels set on, and up here is where they exit. The siphon connection hose here is extra length so that I can separate the barrels by more distance if I need to. So before I plug up the check valve, it's just 3/4 inch PVC check valve. It's got a high flow rate to it, which is important when you're dealing with this pump because it's not as much pressure as house water pressure. So I don't know what the pressure is, but it works. So anyway, I fabricated this using hose attachments here, and I'm going to attach it to that Y I talked about a minute ago. But I wanted to show you what it looked like. It's attached to a hose that goes out to another configuration outside. Now the plug, I plug it in here
to an Alexa plug. It's an outlet that's controlled by Wi-Fi, and I can use my phone app to set it to do all kinds of things. Come on when I want it to. They call them routines. I can set it to come on every minute, a minute on, minute off, all the way up to once a week, once a month. It's just very flexible. There it is attached. I'll take you on the inside of the barrel. This particular check valve is needed because when the house water comes on to water without fertilizer, if I didn't put this check valve on it, the water would flow back into here if I forgot to turn the Y valve off outside. And I've done that 2 or 3 times, and it made a mess in here. So I'd learned not to do that, and I put a check valve on it. Now I don't have to worry about it anymore. Let me take you inside, see if I can see what you see now. Now I'm going to try to show you here on the Y. It's kind of hard to see, but on this Y, the left side of the Y is turned almost off, and it allows the nutrient to flow and hit the top of the barrel here and fall back in here. And so I can increase that to where if I open it all the way, it's providing equal going to the garden and inside here. And what that does is it minimizes the force going to the gardens. So that's the point of the Y. It essentially works to lower or raise the pressure going into this out to the gardens. This is a fill container. I made the hole just big enough for the threaded to come through. And on the other side, I've got an attachment. Oh, I dropped it. Let me get it. Oh, this, and it's a double female to connect 2 females together, 2 males together actually. And all I do is I screw it on to the end here. That does it, prevents it from coming out. And yes, I've had it where I just filled it through here, and it would occasionally, not occasionally, it has fallen out of here and messed up my shed again. So I've learned. So this hose goes down along the floor here. Not an inconvenience really to step over, but it fills this barrel here. And this barrel is upside down, and I'm using the top part to make that connection there. On the bottom, whoop, go all the way around. On the bottom here, I've got another Y. This Y goes to drip, which goes to the grow room, and the hose I just showed you goes down here. Now when I fill this up, I can turn this on at any time and it'll fill those barrels together. In these 2 containers, I have the tops here that contain the components of Master Blend, and this one is Epsom salt, and this is the Master Blend. Excuse me. I use a funnel to fill 1 gallon container, cold milk containers. Let me show you the other side. This is calcium nitrate. All right, I'll show me mixing 1 batch here. We'll start with the Epsom salt. I'll put 2 of these. I'm making double strength in each container, and then I'll go down here and I'll get 4 of these. All right, I'll put this one back in the Epsom salt, and I'll switch the funnel over. And then I'll get 2 of these. All right, now I'll take these in the house and I'll fill them with warm water, warm to hot, shake them, and then after a short period of time they'll mix. This will fill 1 55-gallon barrel. So I have 6 of these for 3 55-gallon barrels. This is my Orbit timer. This one goes to 2 different things here. One goes to the figs, and I water the figs. Those are the 25-gallon pots. And this one is one that goes to fill the fertilizer drums. So It's set on a timer that goes off twice a day for the figs, but if I want to set it manually, I just click it once and then set it for the amount of time. And I know that if I do it for 7 minutes, it fills one of the rain barrels up just about what I need. So let's walk over to where it's filling up. Those are the 6 calcium nitrate and master blend Epsom salt. You can't mix them in concentrate like that because some of the nutrient will fall out, so it's not what you want. And the mess over there is conversion of tape from my raised beds from tubing to tape, which the tape is on 6-inch spacing, the tubing's on 18-inch, and that wasn't doing good enough for me, so I just switched. All right, let's come in here. Now what I've got going right now is filling this barrel right here. I have a strap that hangs from the ceiling there, and I run it around a couple times and secure it, and that way as it fills it won't fall out. So a lot of times I have a sprayer on the end of this, and I use it for all manner of things. But once this is full, I will run it and let it fall into this tank through the hose here, and then once it gets up at least halfway, I'll run water through this hose here, which will start the siphon between the two. All right, I got 1 gallon of each, and right now it's probably about right here. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in and let it fill up further before I add the other one, so it's not too concentrated. Alright, I'll come back in a couple minutes when it's up higher, probably about to the last ring here, and I'll add calcium nitrate. I hope you can see that. I can't tell if I'm filming it or not. And then once it gets up here to the very top, it should shut off because I set it for 7 minutes, but if it doesn't, then I will turn the valve off there. All right, we're full. So we're going to come down here and we're going to turn this on. All the hose. And it is coming down into here. Now, that's 155 gallon drum. This is 2, so obviously this is only going to fill up half, one full one, or if it siphons half of both of them. So I need to do it again, the same thing, just with a fresh fill. And a lot of times this has already got a lot in it, and I just use this one method to top up these however much is needed. So we're going to let that other tank empty, and then we're going to need to do this tank again. We're going to fill it up one more time, and we're going to top both of these off. So I'll finish up the irrigation with fertilizer and also water through a timer with this unimpressive piece of hardware here. And what this is I've got 2 Ys, one Y here, one Y here, and the 2 females are joined together with a male-male adapter. This yellow hose piece here is what you saw inside with the fertilizer. It comes out through the hose, and when this is on, it goes up. And this Y feeds, the top one feeds the raised beds here, and the bottom one feeds the lazy garden. The lazy garden is, I carry water all the way out to the lazy garden through regular garden hose. And that attachment's over here, and it's got a 25 psi reducer on it post the filter here, which is a screened in filter. And I put this little planter on here just to keep the sun out and creating algae. That's what it looks like a little more clearly here.
And so the pump is not quite powerful enough to do both gardens at the same time. So what I have to do is I turn one on, and then after 10 minutes, I just switch these two here from the primary garden to the raised bed garden. Right now they're both on because the house water, which comes in here to this Y and is fed here through two females adapter to male here, same with this one. And that way, this water coming in feeds both gardens at the same time. So twice a day I water both gardens at the same time, and it's on an orbit timer. So it comes on for 15 minutes at 6:50 in the morning and 18:50, which is 6:50 p.m. at night. So after those water, I'll turn on the appropriate days, I'll turn on the fertilizer. And because this house water has pressure on it, the fertilizer doesn't go back towards the house because the orbit timer has it turned off. The same is true when the house water's on. I leave this open now because it has a check valve I showed you in there on it. So that's how I water the gardens and fertilizer garden. Water, fertilizer, water, fertilizer. Fertilizer is controlled by an app. Water is controlled by an orbit timer. I did want to tell you that the raised beds are controlled by a 10 psi reduction here to keep this poly tubing from popping, because I have poly tubing fed with drip tape. And so the drip tape, I don't want it to be over pressurized. So it seems to work out great for all 16 beds.